What's up, everybody? How are you doing today? So glad to see all of you. Welcome to Adobe Live Education Edition. I'm Claudio Zavala
Woot.
Jr., Education Evangelist at Adobe. I'm based in Texas, but I'm actually in the San Francisco office for today and excited to talk about all the fun stuff we're going to do in Adobe Express for education.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're seeing this today. My name is Martin Cisneros. We work to support education community here at Adobe, and I'm also an education evangelist based out of Silicon Valley, ladies and gentlemen. So today we are diving into creating fun and engaging comics using generative AI in Adobe Express for education, and it's summertime. So of course, we are going to do all the wonderful things with comics.
Absolutely. And for the next 55 minutes, we're going to go over some great tools in Adobe Express for education, the quick, easy content creation app for education from Adobe, free for K through 12. And we're going to show you how you can boost creativity, student engagement, and share some tips on how you can supercharge productivity in the classroom.
Yeah. Plus, Claudio and I are going to live demo and push all the buttons. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, there's many buttons to push and show you how these features work. Love saying that, by the way. Pushing all the buttons and play to learn. It's a great way to get familiar with all the tools, and explore possibilities for creating. Friends, remember that you can use Adobe Express for education in your classroom right away. So, for those of you who are just clicking in and thinking, what is all this excitement about? What is Adobe Express for education? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is the quick and easy create anything app from Adobe. You can find this free in the iOS, Android apps, and of course, it is web based. Yes, that means it'll also play in that old crummy Chromebook that you have in the back of the class with the sticky K and L. So it's easy content creation, all free for K-12 educators and students.
That's awesome. So, Martin, we're gonna dive into today, but I think we before we actually
Yeah,
dive in, what do you
but
think?
but but before we dive in, though, Claudio, I
Yeah.
have I have two questions for you, guy.
All right. All right.
What are some of your favorite? Since we're talking about comics, right?
Yes.
And we I think you and I have had this discussion before. It was pretty much our pre-literature growing up, but I want to know right now, and I want you to share with our audience, what are some of your favorite comics, and what makes comics interesting for you?
Absolutely. Those are some great questions. So, also, if you're in the chat, if you have some favorite comics, let us know what they are, but also let us know where you're joining from as well. We'll be glad to see who's in the show today. So, Martin, to answer your question, ever since being a kid, I would say my favorite comics have been like I'm on the DC comics. That's like I like the DC comics more, but Batman has always been one of my favorite like superhero comics. If we're thinking about that, the superhero theme, being he doesn't have necessarily superpowers, but being rich, but he's able to he was creative in all the different ways he made his tools, his whatever he needed to save the day. So that's just been one of my favorite superheroes. And we're thinking just comics in general, like back in the day when we used to read this thing that you would open up. It was like a piece of paper that had black print, and then on Sundays they'd have color comics. So some of you are not old enough to know what that is, but you would actually go to the store and buy this newspaper, and inside it would be the comic section, which is the only reason my parents would subscribe to it, just so that I can read the comics on Sunday. And some of my favorite were The Far Side,
Oh, I
which
love the
was
Far
just
Side.
hilarious.
Yes,
Um,
yes, yes.
Almost always, Martin, it was almost always cows. Like cows were the hilarious just observations of life and using animals, and literally was thinking of the Far Side. And one of my other favorites, Martin, was Calvin and Hobbes. I love
Oh, yeah,
Calvin and
yeah,
Hobbes.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think what I loved about Calvin and Hobbes a lot was because he was a kid and his imagination just ran wild, and it made me think when I'm sure when you were a kid and I was a kid, just like our imagination, how like we thought of things that we couldn't do, just put cardboard boxes together, and that's what literally Calvin and Hobbes would do. So, Martin, what about you? What is your
As soon as you said Far Side, I grin to grin. I have like literally all the books, all the collections. I used to use it as a teacher, So what I would do is I would draw like in the morning for creative writing. As soon as the kids would come in, I would draw a quarter of whatever the picture was and
Hmm.
have them write to think what it was. And then I would drew the other. So it would be like a 15-minute creative writing. But one of my favorite Far Side comics was these two deer out in the wilderness, and one of them has a shotgun and says, "Look, I found a thunderstick." Oh no, it was a deer and a bear. And then on the next thing, on the next episode, the bear just looks at him all, with his head down, and he goes, "You idiot!" He goes, "It's a 30-06." He goes, "What thunderstick?" So I love the whole component of bringing what is normal life hunting, right? Bringing it to to reality, to our reality. So that was one.
Yeah.
And since you were talking about that, my go-to, of course, was Spider-Man.
Oh
And
yeah.
the reason why I chose Spider-Man because he was a teenager, so he was like, Batman. Back in those days, right? When I was growing up, Batman was old, Superman was already grown, everybody was
Hmm.
already grown. But the youngest one was, of course, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And just to think of having that ability, so much fun of what we have. But we also have some resources that we would want to share. So if you are in the chat, here are some comic book resources definitely want to get into.
Yeah.
But there's so many. I mean, we could do literally like five
Yeah.
shows of
Exactly,
some great
Martin.
stuff. But yeah, but there's so many for those of you who are teachers. Like I said, I used to use it for creative writing, Claudio. But
Mhm.
there's absolutely some amazing things you can do, of course, with comics. So the whole thing about the combination of art and storytelling. I
Yeah.
mean, comics blend visual art, narrative writing, helping students enhance both artistic and story telling skills, literacy improvement, creating comics, encouraging concise and creative
Yeah.
expression,
Love
boosting
it.
literacy, right? For especially
Absolutely.
for a lot of our kids. And then my favorite thing is communication skills.
Yep.
Um, we are about to get into some fun stuff, but I always used to think it's like, oh my gosh, these guys are brilliant because they're able to tell whole stories in just very short sentences or phrases that really, really do some amazing things. And then
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah. Go
last, but
ahead.
not two more things, but one of them is, of course, confidence boosting. Students get
Love
to
it.
see their ideas come to life. And, we have this little tool called Adobe Express that definitely will help with that. And
Yes.
then, my thing, I always tell people the more creative you are, the more confidence you get. So,
100%.
making comics fosters creativity, encouraging students to think outside the box and explore some really unique perspectives.
Awesome. And this is so speaking of all those things, I'm 100% Martin. It's like, especially like, you and I, we talked about this. We were Spanish speakers growing up. And so I think I'm sure you can attest to this. Like, I learned a lot of English watching, like looking at comics, reading comics, watching cartoons, visual comics and stuff. And so for me, that was a huge support. And so, but this is a great way for students to be able to share their stories, with their voice. So Martin, you shared that link, and so I'm going to go ahead and open this up so we can share this uh, visual with you on the screen here. So we've got this comic book resource. So I just kind of want to walk through this because this is available for you. And I'm going to give credit to one of my colleagues out in India, Nikahara, who created the original version. So I remixed her version. So this is think of this as a comic book resource. So if you're just diving into comic books, and we'll get into the creation and using AI, but think about like the structure of comics. So if you think of like unless you're like a super nerd, like us, we're into comics, you might not know like the structures of comics, and then we'll get into like the developing ideas. But I wanted to walk through some of these pieces. Now I won't read verbatim, but think about like the words and pictures. Think of like this is the yin and yang married. They produce a progeny more interesting than either parent. So like combining the two, just amazing. We talked about Calvin and Hobbes, classic Peanuts, just like everyday kid stuff, life, and with humor. And think about these are adults writing this, but like looking back, I'm sure like all of us, Martin, you and I could probably come up with different comics thinking about like childhood growing up, the struggles we had, but also the humor, the stuff. And I think everybody can relate to. And so I'll quickly go through like the parts of comics and then how, and then I'll pass it on to Martin to talk about like ideas where you can come up with ideas with for comics. So, think about the comics that think about having these different parts in a comic. So, we have our panels, which are you have your squares or rectangles or they may be circles where you have your images that are showing. Then you have like your special effects artwork. So think of it like I always think of the Batman, pow, pa bam. Have the words that pop up,
Right,
which we'll be
right.
able to do in Express. You have your speech bubbles. So we're having the characters in the comics that are talking with speech bubbles. In fact, I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can pull this up a little bit here, zoom in a bit. So your gutters are basically in between the panels, and then you have your speech balloons, and then the captions are like think of the narrator that's talking in a comic. So when we think videos, a narrator speaking, but in comics, it's kind of like to distinguish, you have your speech bubbles, thought bubbles, and then you have your captions. So to think of the narrators talking. So just kind of wanted to share with you all like kind of some structures of comics and how they work. So that way you kind of have a base starting point as far as when you're working, starting off with creating comics. And so these are just a few examples of the panels, which many of these we can find templates in Express to start off your comic. So different examples of panels. Your the one on the left reminds me of like the Incredible style, kind of like the cartoony, and then you have your more like graphic style on the far right. So all these different types. So not necessarily does have always have to have a panel, but it can be a full image, but then a bunch of images added on top of it. So your types of panels: full page panels, double page. You got some bleeds, and then the insets, which you see here. You have your insets. Um, Lettering in comics, Martin, we joke about as teachers, we always use the Comic Sans font
Right,
because that's
right.
just been available. But again, we'll dive into Express, which we have a plethora of fonts that we can use. Bold for emphasis, large lettering. So, like if you see right here where Calvin is, so basically think about, when you're conveying a story, when you're writing, you have exclamation points, bold letters. So think of the translation or the transfer of that to comics using text as a key indicator for a visual for those who are reading to understand, oh, this is an emphasized sentence or word. And so that will help you when you're putting together a comic. And then we have some lettering as well, as opposed to lettering inside a comic, as opposed to the thought bubble or speech bubble. And then we have our sound effects. So obviously, when we're telling a story in comics, we don't have an audio clip, but we can actually dive into that a little bit later, Martin. I think we can use some animate with audio. But as far as like using visuals, we have the splash, boom, ow, oh my gosh, ouch type of things that you can add as far as sound effects. So we have the word onomatopoeia, the words that sound like their spellings. And so now, thinking of word bubbles, thought bubbles. If you're not familiar with them, then you have them right there. If you've never known about the speech bubble and thought bubble, there's a difference there. And then the exclamation actions. And so, Martine, I'm gonna ask you to kind of jump in here and let's think about like for those that want to start with ideas, and then we're gonna take these ideas and kind of go with one of these here, or kind of give an example and express. But I'm gonna pass it on to you to talk about the like exploring steps on finding ideas.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, there, of course, teachers have different ways of using their comics, but what about students? Students, sometimes it's like almost getting like that blank page, right?
Yeah.
So, a few ideas, Claudio, that we've come up with that I think are pretty great are ways to develop ideas. So, of course, we have, of course, the classic superhero, and I used to do this all the time with my students. I used to ask my students, if you can only have one superpower, what would that be? And then that would be the brainchild, right? My favorite ones were always like, I wish I could be invisible. And I'm like, why is that? And then my kids would say, well, every time my mom asked me to clean my room, I can just disappear.
Yeah.
So, but so superhero, it's a young superhero in a colorful costume flying above a futuristic city skyline, a sunset, flowing in the wind, kind of a deal. And then you also have, I always think about travel as well, right? That vibrant, travel scene, showering a backpacker exploring Cobblestone Street in the charming European village surrounded by, cafes and local shops. And then, of
Nice.
course, we have the fairy tales, right?
Yep.
Fairy tales are amazing. So I want you to think of, a magical forest, with glowing, fairies flying above, a house, sparkles, mysterious creatures speaking. And then, of course, we have futuristic. I always think about a sleek futuristic city with flying cars, holistic signs, tall glass towers. And then, of course, we are think about school days. They think about how many different stories we can pull from our very own experience, right? A cheerful classroom, glowing, filled with students working on creative projects, colorful posters. And then, of course, we have friends and family. So for a lot of us, our superheroes are our friends and family. So a happy family enjoying a picnic in the park with kids playing, parenting, parents laughing, dog running, flying a kite, whatever that might be. So there are so many ways you can pull this from, right?
Yeah.
I love the fact that, through all of these are just like, a few tips, but we can come up with so many. But here's what I
Yes.
always tell folks. Just give your students just a baseline and have them fly with their own ideas.
Absolutely. So, Martine, I think I'm gonna like as to start off like demoing the Generative AI Express. We're gonna go kind of fairy tale to do our first one, just kind of
Oh, very cool. Yeah,
example.
yeah.
So I'm here. I am in Express, and let me just fix this up. Oh, perfect. And so what I'm gonna do is go use that fairy tale example. So like thinking like a magical forest. With a glowing fairy flying above a toadstool house. I'm getting very specific here, with sparkles and mystical
Yeah, yeah.
creatures peeking from the tree. So that's going to
Oh, I love
be
it. I
my
love it.
prompt. So I'm going to go in here to generate an image here, and let's me paste that in there. And I'm waiting for my copy to come. There we go. So I'm going to hit generate. Actually, I'm going to copy it once more. I'm going to hit generate. And just so folks, as this is generating, think of the different ideas that you come up with, add them into the chat there, the different ideas you might think of for creating comics. Like, so Martine gave a few examples. Please share some of your examples. All right, look, check that out, Martine.
Oh, look at
This was
that.
the here's the prompt: a magical forest with glowing fairy flying above a toadstool house. So, I mean, you know, this is a crazy. I always say wildly awesome because anybody can create this based on their prompt. And so, what I'm going to do here is, for those of you, if you haven't played with these pieces in the generate image, is play with the different styles and techniques here. So we have content type, and then we have movement. So let's say if we go, you know, which one of the ones that I like, Martine. So since we're talking about comics, maybe we go with like doodles. Let's see how it'll look like.
Oh, I
If I
love
hit
that
doodle
idea.
and let's hit generate. And so let's see if it looks more like a comic, you know, illustration, kind of a writing. Um, and so let's see what it looks like here.
And as Claudio's doing that, ladies and gentlemen, it's just a reminder that your students can go in there and the wonderful thing about Adobe Express is we have a variety of different styles. So your students might be able to write the same story, but they can have the product look completely different from one another. So it's a great tip. And oh my goodness, look at that.
Yeah.
That looks pretty amazing.
Like just by going and changing the style. So like I this gives me this right here gives me that kind of that I know you remember that Lord of the Rings cartoon.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
The
it
Hobbit.
can the Hobbit, the Hobbit cartoon. This kind of gives me that look right there, which is pretty amazing for like getting started with a comic chick. So fairy tales, and so Martine, let's go ahead now since we're gonna just build a comic now. Let's go ahead and start building a comic. So we're gonna start from scratch, everyone, and walk you through how to create the comic. And so let's hit that home button here. And I Martine, I don't know if you can see the chat. If there's any questions that come up, I'm not able to see the chat. So
Oh yeah,
uh,
no, not yet. Not yet.
okay, cool. All right. So everyone, so one of the things that I when you're getting started with Comics here and Express, definitely take advantage of the templates that we have here. And so I'm going to click right here where it says let's do a search and hit comic. And I'm just going to type in let's see. Let's hit comic and let's see what we get. Look at that. Okay. Look at these templates that are available for comics. So I'm going to click view all. So we talked about the panels Look at that. All of these with different panels. Some of them already you have comics that are already completed. And we have our famous little bobblehead one right there. But what I'm going to do is like one of these at the top. And so what the great thing about it, even if it doesn't look like the way you want it to look like as far as the size of the squares or rectangles, that's fine. I'm actually going to go with this one that's completely blank, Martin. This one
Okay.
right here. So I'm
Yeah.
going to go ahead and click that one right here as our starting point. And now here's another thing. When you click that, then you can see additional ones. So, folks, if
Ooh.
when you're
Yeah.
inside Express, like we always have a tendency to customize template.
And Claudio, something else that I enjoy, if you go back up, yeah, right there is that little heart. So a lot of your students, will come to like a style, just like Claudio did right now. There's something that catches their eye and they're like, oh, I can tell a story and I already see it. So instead of them trying to look for it over and over again, a great way of doing it is by clicking on the little heart, which will then automatically save it to their favorites tab, right?
Absolutely.
And also, if you want to share bounce ideas, or you also have that link there that automatically will link it directly to that particular template. So these are amazing. I love it.
Yeah, and then you can copy that and send it off to your students so they don't have to go searching for that one. So if you find the one you like, heart it, click that link. So now I'm going to go ahead and click on customize the template. So this is a two-page spread for a comic. Let's see. I think I'm going to go with this one right here, the first one. We're going to start fleshing out the comic, and for this one, I'm going to make some adjustments for mine, Martine. I think I'm going to just move this down a little bit, grab both of these. So what I'm doing here, everyone, is I'm just clicking one box right here, and then I'm clicking shift for the second one so I can group them together, just move them down. And I think I may just resize them just a little bit, Martine. And then I'm gonna click this top panel. I'm just gonna make it a little larger. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Now, Martine, I'm feeling futuristic for our comic. And
Yeah.
so what I want to do is to start off by generating an image. And so now that we got our panel ready to go, is that let's start generating some images. So let me go over here to media. Let's see, we got photos and we got generate image. And so everyone, one tip that I recommend when you're here, you have the option to choose the size. So depending on like how your panel looks like, right here's a good tip here is pick one that is closest to that size. So I'm going to go start off with this first panel, which is close to widescreen as we can get. And I'm going to click on that right there so that I have one that's close, and I could always crop it. I'm going to go ahead and make it just larger a bit. And so Martina, like I said, I'm going to go with a very like a futuristic style. So I have a prompt already ready to go here. I'm going to go ahead and paste that prompt in here. And so this one right here, I'm gonna go like very futuristic and maybe a little bit what's that word, post-apocalyptic,
There you
that's
go.
just like. And so what I'm doing here, and as you're creating your prompts, so I have a male human with trench coat stares at a cracked glass cabinet display with a picture of Earth before the fall. A reflection shows his haunted expression with red and blue tone in comic book half-tone dot style. Now that half-tone dot style, so if you're from the comics, I'm gonna age us, Martin. Everything
Oh,
was printed before with these tiny little dots, multiple dots in different
yeah.
colors, and they just were overlaid on top of each other. Now everything's digital, but if I add that comic book halftone dot style, I'll get something that looks like comic style. And then I'm gonna go with graphic instead of the art style because I want it to be graphic style. And I'm not gonna actually use any of the styles right now at the moment because I've got that here. And so the other thing too is the prompt. Give as much detail as you can for the prompt. So here we go. Just hit generate, Martin, and let's see
Where the
what
magic
comes up.
happens right here.
Magic, yeah. Yeah, and let's
I
see.
I
Go ahead.
love that, and this is for folks who want to create different styles. There's so many in between styles because not only can you use the styles from the generate image panel on the left hand side by just what Claudio just finished saying is you can then create your own in between by just telling the system what you exactly want to see. So I love this.
So what I'm gonna do here, Martin, is since look at all of these are great.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I think actually I might go with that one right there. I think I'd go with this one. Here's now my square is got it's a very flat panel, but here's the beauty of Express. And we're just gonna stretch this panel here, and then we're gonna just minimize it up here,
Yeah.
and then here's the because I'm layering it on top of the other one. We'll fix that layer later because we see our squares here. I'm just gonna hit crop right here, and I'm just gonna move him up so we can see a little more of his head there. There we go. So there's our first panel, Martin, for our comic.
I love it.
What do you think?
But yes, this reminiscent of Blade Runner here.
Blade Runner, yes. And
Once
so
again,
now,
kids,
go
if
ahead.
you have no idea, no, it's not a new shaver. It's an old film in the 80s.
Blade Runner.
Yes. So
Yeah.
just letting you know. Don't be running with
And so
blades.
Martin,
No.
yeah. So now, by the way, everyone, we have there's a if you're like stuck trying to figure out how to like I don't know where to start as far as like generating images, and if you need some help um for generating images, we've got I'm going to go ahead and share this here in just a sec, but I'm going to show you the page, and then Martin, I'm going to see if you can drop this into the chat right there. This resource right here, which is our text to image tips. One of my our colleagues, Shell, the wonderful Shell McConville, she put this together for text to image tips. So if you need help on how to generate images, not sure where to get started, check this out right here. This is fantastic. It is I was like when she created this, like I bookmarked this right here because I always reference this. I
Yes,
won't get
yes.
into the full thing here, but you got prompt structure, you've got tips as far as like what type creating the style of image. Like she's got one chibi anime style. If you're looking for flat art cartoon style, one of the cool ones right here is this low poly style. So you can have yours in any style, and then composition, style references, and so on. So um, this is a great resource. It'll be available. You can share it with your students. So I wanted to just kind of highlight this and give Shell a shout out. This is a fantastic resource if you need help for creating the prompts. And so definitely check that out. So Martine, we're going to continue our story here with the post-apocalyptic here. So folks, I can go ahead and click generate image again, but I want to show this really cool feature here. So I'm going to click on this image here that I've already started. Martine, what is that feature that we to make sure that we have a consistent look? Do you remember?
I it's hold on. It's I'm cheating here because
I'm testing you.
I always forget the name of it, but it's one of my favorite things. Hold on. It's coming. Oh my goodness, I am pushing all like literally what
Literally
you
pushing
said.
all the buttons
I am
here.
pushing all the buttons. Here it is. Here it is. Now I got it. All right. So it is called this. It's a reference image, and it's on the style.
So actually, so we got that one. We can do that here, Martine, the reference style.
Yeah.
So we got the new one. I don't know if you played with this one. Check this out. We're gonna click the image that generate similar
The
feature. That
that,
is, which it's basically what you just mentioned, Martine, which is
but
this right
it's the
here.
shortcut way.
The shortcut to that. Basically the same thing right here.
Yeah, yeah,
We can
yeah.
upload because what we used to have to do is download, Martine, like you were talking about, download this image, and then we would have to upload it right here. But now we
Mhm.
got the magic of this right here, which is generate similar. And basically what it's going to do is, if you can see right here, is what you just said, Martine, is that reference image is right here. And now what I'm going to do is I've got the next prompt here. What I'm doing is I'm just still giving it as much detail as possible. But my next scene is like right here. We got the guy with the trench coat still running. Now he's got some scavengers running behind him in a back alley, and with burned out buildings, red and blue tone, and I'm still keeping the style, but it's going to use this as a reference point. So it'll basically still have the same look as the first one. And here we go. We'll hit generate. So now we got the next scene that we're going to continue. Or like Martin, you said, we can go back and use that reference image. But like
Yeah.
you said, it's a little shortcut.
I
I, and I didn't mean to
shortcuts
get you.
are no,
Go
no, no.
ahead.
Shortcuts are my favorite, but it's like cooking, right? I always go back to, okay, how do we originally do it? But shortcuts are the best way. And I love this because I cannot tell you how many times my students are like, oh, I just want him to be turned around this way. I want him to be doing this and that. And before, it's like that's where the writing skills,
Yep.
used to come in. But now, we understand that we have different types of writers in our classroom. So this is such a fun way of making sure that, they get exactly what they want. And that's the power of Adobe. Once again, we want our kids to share their stories. And sometimes a visual, as we all know, can replicate 1,000 words or more. And I love the fact that we're now making it very, very easy for our students to tell their story.
So Martine, check that out. So
This is amazing.
look at
Right?
that. So what I'm gonna do, Martine, now is just like I'm gonna keep generating similar images, and we're gonna continue the story. So I'm gonna fill out the frames with as much as possible. I'm gonna continue the story here. So we've got the same male human. We're gonna generate similar. The next scene is he's talking to like a computer terminal and this like hologram image flickering. So let's see what comes up. And I'm just gonna like I've got like I said I've got my story kind of pretty much mapped out. Um, the prompting piece is right getting as specific as much as possible. So we
Right.
got look at
Right.
that
Right.
with the image. So we
Oh,
got
that's great.
that's kind of cool right there. I think I'm gonna go with that one right there. And so what I like about it, because I said red and blue tones, because I'm using the generate similar, it's keeping those those blue tones. Because if we go back and start over, it would be like maybe it'll be darker blue, darker red. And so, oh, I think my camera just went asleep here. So, but can you still hear me?
I can hear you. You just need to
Okay.
add 25 cents to the camera machine and
Yes, that
you'll
add
be back
25
up
cents
and
to the
running.
camera. So the camera will come back on here in just a second here. So as long as you can still hear me, that's fine. All right. So we're gonna go here, generate similar. Got the last scene here. We're gonna go with like um but here it is. Wait, I've been using generate. So he's basically the post-apocalyptic, running away from people, goes to computer, and it kind of like overlooking like at the very end, the edge of the city. So let's see what we get here for this next generation here. There we go. The power of the AI. There we go. Oh, look at that. So it's overlooking the city. Here we go. This one's kind of cool right here. And if you want to generate more, don't forget you can click on generate more if you still don't see the one that you're looking for.
Oh,
And so yeah,
I just see this would save so much time for my students. It's just, yeah. I love the fact that the tone looks identical.
yeah.
And I'm just thinking it's like how many other panels can they fly through to tell their story?
Ooh, I like this one right here. I think this one fits just
Uh-huh.
fine. And you know what I'm going to do? One thing is, so I can go into the prompt and say, the man looking to the left. So you see, one of the things here is, so I've got the gentleman looking away, running away from people, looking at the computer. But see how he's looking in that direction? Everything's going the same one. Here, instead of going back into the prompt and like retrying it, I'm just going to use this real quick hack right here. We're going to click on the image and go to position, and then we're going to flip it. So now he's looking in the other direction. So if I don't get the way he's looking at, I don't have to go back into the prompt and change it all up. I can just do this piece right here. What I just did is, all right. So we've got basically our story put together here. And what I'm going to do now is we've got all these images here. And so what I'm just going to do is click on the images. Martin, I'm just going to send them backward. Oh, not too far back. There we go. I see what's going on. We're going to do this little quick fix right here. There we go. So we're going to send these back. And so the template that I happened to use, Martine, had the rectangles as shapes with colors inside them. So what I'm doing
Oh,
is just
okay.
going in and clearing those out. Now, the reason I'm sending them to the back is so that we have that nice little black outline.
And for
And
those of you who are brand spanking new to this, so this is what we call all layers. So Claudio, what he's doing on the right hand side, you see all the different elements that go into that panel. So those rectangular shapes with the black border and the white inside, what he's doing is he's placing those pictures in the back. And when the shape is filled, he needs to click on the shape. Then he goes to the left hand side, and then where the shape was colored white, he would click on that, and then of course he'll go in there and click on the transparency, which is that white box with the red line going through it. Now, the reason why I'm saying that's because a lot of folks haven't played around with creative tools this way. So I just want you to think like, back when you were in kindergarten and you used to create those collages, right, with the glue sticks, and you would just, put pictures one on top of another. Well, that's stacking, right? That's analog stacking. We're doing pretty much the same thing. This is digital and on the right hand side, but I want you to see what the final result is, right?
yeah,
Look at this. This looks amazing. And I love the fact that, your kids, once again, these are all skill sets. What Claudio's showing here, once your kids get into this, learning how to use the layers, learning how to put stuff on top, removing certain colors, generating AI, keeping the relevance of it. There's so many, I can go on and on of how many skill sets
yeah.
we have already done
One,
up until this
yes.
point. So this, once again, amazing, amazing.
And I just want to, Martin, thanks for sharing all that. And then what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to zoom in. Remember those halftone dot things that I was talking about? Look at that right here.
Hmm.
See those
Oh,
that effect,
yeah.
and that's why I added that word halftone. Just, I mean, to give it that look like a old school newspaper comic, like the comics that you would buy, that you can still buy
Yeah.
as printed pieces. So, Martin, now that we've got the images, so we need to add some. Now, in this case, he's kind of a lonely guy. He's post-apocalyptic. Maybe he might be the last man standing. I don't know. Uh, but we're going to add some captions. So the difference between captions and speech bubbles and thought bubbles. Those are we're going to add captions. So basically, the narrators. So we need to give some visual text clues or hints on what's happening. So Martine, I'm going to go ahead and start that here. I'm going to add a text, and I've got my captions ready to go right here. And so there's my first caption. And do you notice, Martine, something that just doesn't work here?
Yeah, I have a huge 32-inch screen in front of me, and I'm still having a hard time, trying to figure it out. But this is the beauty of Adobe Express, ladies and gentlemen, because we can switch things up really, really quick.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to effects, and I'm just going to add a shape to that. Look at that. Just immediately makes that big difference. And if you don't like that yellow, depending on how your comics, so like yellow could be captions and speech bubbles can be white, but since this is just going to be uh like there's no speech bubbles in this one, in this case, I'm just going to make the box behind it white. Now, Martine, I think we need to do it justice. Instead of this font right here, why don't we let's go to right here, let's find more fonts, and let's see if we can find something that looks not so much Comic Sans, but
Yeah, no.
maybe a little more. Let's see. How about this one right here? That looks good. I like that. Because you don't have to go with the traditional Comic Sans one here. So before the fires, we built museums to remember. Now they're tombs, and I'm the ghost. Ooh. All right. So let's continue the story here, Martin.
I
Now
love it.
here's the tip, everybody. The quick tip here, or think of this as a hack. Um, Instead of going back to adding another text and repeating the process, check this out. So I've got my cursor right here. I'm going to hold down the option button on I'm using a MacBook here, so it depends on your device. I'm going to hold on the option, and then I'm just going to drag this. Look at that. I've just made a duplicate of it. And I'm actually going to do this again. So I've got the text box ready to go over here, and then I've got the text box ready. So basically now, Martin, it's just a matter of me going, and let's resize this. So now let's do the next part right here. So I've got the next text here. There we go. Let's paste that in there. And there we go. So here's our next caption coming in. Look at that. Some survive the end of the world. Others become it. Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm-
I'm ready for the series now.
I know, huh?
When does it show up on Netflix?
I know. Well, and also I love that you said that, Martinez. Think about this. Like you said, series. Now, if imagine if all of the students, everyone here, your students now are creating these. Think about them. Like they can create their own series, Martin.
Yeah, no, I love this. I love this.
All right. So now we've got the next piece here. She was right. It's not over. This place, it holds the truth and maybe a way forward.
And I want you to see what Claudio's doing here, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are new to Adobe Express. When he is clicking on those, if the verbiage is too large or whatever, he is just clicking on those little white bubbles you see around the text, and he can manipulate that. So it doesn't matter what you write. Your students can write their thesis here, and we can make it fit into a comic book, right? That's the beauty of Adobe Express. They're learning so many different skill sets at the same time, right? We're making it easy. And if you haven't been noticing, every time he clicks on the text editor pops up on the left-hand side. If he clicks on the image editor automatically pops up, right? If he clicks on the shape, the shape. So there's, so we make it very, very simple for students to be onboarded and creating their stories right off the bat.
Yeah, I love it. So, okay, Martin. So now, for the sake of time, this is like the start of this comic, and I could continue it like for the second panel or the second page, but we're gonna go with what we have here now. So, this is pretty cool. Like this comic, I haven't come up with a name for it, but like think about like the like students. This was a futuristic one, Martin. But you gave a couple of ideas. What were some of the other ideas that you mentioned earlier? In regards to like the different types of comics?
They can create their own superhero, right? What their own special power. They can talk about travel. Maybe they create their own space, right? They can imagine a historical space. They can imagine a futuristic space, just like you did. Fairy tales, how most of our childhood are created by fairy tales or folklore stories, right? Like this one that you did, futuristic. What does their future, how do they think their future is like?
Yeah.
Maybe they write a full, page or full story about what they think their future is going to be like. And then, of course, they can talk about their ongoing stories. I always think about what was that program that talked about the Wonder Years, right?
Oh yeah.
So similar to that is because each one of us has our own story about our own school days. And then last but not least, we can talk about family. And there's all kinds of stories with family and friends as well. So, there's so many different things to pull from. But I would even go as far as if you were an obtuse triangle going through the world where everything was circular, what would that feel like? Accessibility through math.
That's
right.
Cool.
So there's so many there's so many different angles, so many different ways. But I always tell this, to all my teachers is like, show them, the basics. This is what Claudio is doing. Show them the basics, and then let your students geek flag fly, because they will impress you with all these tools.
Fantastic. So, Martin, so what I'm going to do here is I'm doing something here. I'm deleting the second page, and then I'm going to do this. Down in the bottom right corner, everyone, we've got the little page actions. I'm going to duplicate this page. So the reason I'm duplicating is I've got my original static image intact right here. And since what I want to do is quickly I'm going to do two things. First off, if you want to look for those like special effects type things, which I didn't need to add in this because of the story, but just to show you, we go to elements on the left-hand column, and let's say I type in the word wow. And so look at this. We've got design assets, we've got icons, and then this right here, we got stickers. I'm going to go with the icons here, design assets first. Look at this. Oh my God.
That's what I say every day when I look at my schedule.
Oh my, that's funny. And then we go back to here. Let's see. wow, bam, bam. You know, like we talked about, like
Yeah.
the Batman style. So if you're looking for like special effects, definitely try go into the elements to use those. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna leave those here, but Martine, let's take this to the next level here with some of the time we have left here. So we've got the static version, and we've got the another static version. But let's do this. Let's go over to media. Let's go to audio, and let's create an audio like comic book here, like our own, like a comic book version here. And so what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna record my voice, and basically, so think about, I'm gonna read like my captions as a let's see if I can read it as like with a Morgan Freeman voice. Let's see if that works here. A Morgan Freeman narration here. Let's see. We got allow permissions. All right, testing 1 2 3. Let's see. Let's use this mic right here. Testing 1 2 3. All right, and then check this out. Enhanced speech, which will
Oh my
fix your
gosh.
audio here. All
Yes,
right.
yes, yes.
So I'm gonna record my voice as like an audio book here. So here we go. I have to practice my Morgan Freeman voice here. Here we go. In 3 2 1. All right. Before the fires, we built museums to remember. Now they're tombs, and I'm a ghost. Some survive the end of the world, others become it. She was right. It's not over. This place, it holds the truth and maybe a way forward. For the first time in years, the sky isn't falling. Maybe it's time to rise. All right, what do you think, man?
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. Your Morgan Freeman voice always gets me, man. That's that is awesome. That is talent right there.
All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch out the first slide because my text was longer. So what I'm doing is I'm just stretching out. As soon as I add audio, for those of you who have not played with this feature in Express, it creates it stretches out. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this here. So now here's my panel. So let's see how it sounds. I'm see. Let me know if you can hear this or not. I'm going to hear my own voice. Oh my god! All right, I'm going to trim a little bit here at the
Yes,
start
yes.
here. I think because I said all right. So let's too much, too much. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Oh,
There we go. All right. So what I'll do is I think I'll share this out. I'll share this on the I'll share this on social so people can hear it, just in case, because I don't think you might have been able to hear this. So I've added my voiceover, but I think everybody heard me maybe recording it possibly. So
mhm.
there's my Morgan Freeman. Um, and so everyone like so we've got our static version, which is right here. And so if I wanted to share this with someone, Martine, um, easy way, just go down to we can just do download and it's be a PDF like I can print it out.
Right,
So
right.
here we go. If I wanted to print this out, so if I got a class full of students, maybe we can make a collection of our student comics. We can print them out and like make a copy of each one, and then each of the students can like have an actual like tangible one version of their comic. But if we go to our little Morgan Freeman version here, I
I
can
love
download it.
this. There's
Yeah,
so many different things. One thing I think about as well, Claudio, is, for those teachers who are thinking about exit tickets, right? With their exit tickets, like, yes, you could do the 5 paragraph essay, they can do a variety of stuff, but this is another way of having your students show you what they know
mm-mm.
in such a creative way. So I want you to think about all, this, how this can also apply for assessment. Because once again, I go back to the skill sets, all the skill sets that the students do in order to create these things will blow your mind of how many skill sets they use to just do that versus just, one module or one model.
Awesome. And so we have the option right here, like we can download this, we can share this as a link on the web too, like so if you want to have a class set of comics to share online, to share with their parents, you can do that as well. Martine, thinking about making this accessible to multiple audiences and students, I'm going to go back here and I'm going to delete just those pows and wows. Martine, Okay, I made my comic in English, but what if I wanted to share it out with my friends who are Spanish speakers?
Oh, the
Uh,
communities. You have this one amazing button up at the top of the guy's head. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So the translate, ladies and gentlemen, is phenomenal. So as Claudia's going to show you, when he clicks on that translate on the left-hand side, we have, I believe, it's now over 45 different types of languages you can translate. But what's amazing is once you do that, once again, your reach can be quite a bit, right? You have that tone of voice. So, oh, yeah, we're doing. Oh, once again, I love that we're pushing all the buttons so you can see all of what the amazing things. But as Claudio is showing you, you can of course choose just to do page one, page two, right? And go ahead and click on page one again, Claudio. So as he clicks on that, look at that, right? So you get to decide whether you want to change all the fields. Now, why would you just want to change one or two? You can create your own language. It could be the alien language. It could be your fairy tale language. It could be your own superhero language, right? But if it's like, no, 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 we want to translate it for all the different languages that I want my community to report to, then this is the way. But the other thing that I love is if you go back on the top of where it says page one, Claudio, yep, right there is that second box on tone of voice. So
Oh yeah.
this is pretty slick as well. So you can, once again, if you're doing something that is sciency, or nonfiction, I should say, you can definitely change the tone to be more professional. Or you're like, nope, I'm the other way around. I usually write professional. I want this to be,
Mhm.
changed to a normal type of tone. There is so many different ways of doing this. So changing it to informal would be amazing. But anyways,
I'm
so
a,
many from
yeah.
different ways.
And I'm gonna leave it. Don't change the tone. I'm gonna hit translate, and I only selected the first page, so I just want my first uh, spread to be translated. So here we go. We got the Spanish version. Martin, I don't know if you can read it, but I need
Yeah.
your voice. We'll go ahead there.
Antes de los incendios, continuamos museos para recordar. Ahora son tumbas y yo soy el fantasma.
Fantastic. Yeah. You have your novela voice right there. That was like
Exactly.
your novela voice. So check that out, folks. Look at that. And we got I just like went. I did Spanish, Portuguese, and then I got French. I can't read French, but like there we go. I
Start
would
off with
not. Yeah, I would do it injustice, So
yeah,
for
yeah,
folks, if you read French, please forgive us there. But there it is. But think about like the accessibility for your stories, making it available, and
yeah,
vice versa. Like if a student does it in Spanish and then they can translate into English or their native language and then translate to other languages. I mean, you can have a large group, like a whole group of students. That just become comic book creators, and who knows, maybe we'll see you at Comic-Con someday and your comic will
yeah.
become a movie. So well, Martine,
Okay,
it
this
looks
was
like,
this was
yeah.
fun. This was fun, and I just want to, for those of you who are in the chat, I'm going to quickly post, of course, the references that we have for the comic book resource, and then, of course, how to write prompts for our what from our wonderful colleague Shell McConville. So that is there for you. This was so much fun, and for those of you who are joining us on your summer, thank you for joining us today. There is so like literally we can be here probably the rest of the summer creating comics, and there's so many different ways of producing it. But once again, these are some great resources for you to begin with. Try, like I said, push all the buttons yourself. Have some fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely, everyone. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. And if you didn't get the resources, hopefully you'll be able to. We'll share them out on socials as well, so you can access all of them. And if you're joining on replay, you're watching this because this is live right now, but you can watch it at any time. Feel free to use this actual session and use it with your students. Like have them watch this walk through. I know many are out right now because it's summertime,
Yeah.
but you yourselves can get diving into comic books as well. And yeah, but thank you everyone for joining. Make sure try to use Adobe Express if you haven't done so. Play with it, um, and then join us in the future for the next sessions of Adobe Express Education Live. Martine, anything, any other shout outs?
Yeah, so definitely join us next week. Our colleagues Wezi Tinwa and of course the amazing Rebecca Hare will do a deep dive on building creative confidence, guided activities in action in Adobe Express for education, taking your class through a whole project step by step. Ladies and gentlemen, this programming just keeps on getting better and better. And do not forget to hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel, turn on all the notifications, push all the buttons, and have so much fun in creating these yourself.
Yes, and we look forward to seeing you again. Don't forget to tag us if you share on social because we'd love to see what your students create. Everyone, thanks so much for joining. Take care. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone.
Have a fun one.